Hello everyone, welcome to this session of my course Appreciating Linguistics, a Typological Approach. We have been discussing phonology and phonological typology. I begin the discussion with some basic concepts of phonology in natural language. We did find out what is a phoneme, what is an allophone, and then how many consonant sounds are there in English, how many vowel sounds are there in English. So, primarily we have been focusing a lot on English as far as the introductory portion is concerned. So, now what I am going to do, I am going to proceed as I did for the previous unit, which is morphological typology. Since I finished the basics discussion on basics of phonology, I am moving to the phonological typology section. And here what I am going to address, these are a few issues or few concepts or the key terms, if I can say, of this unit of the course. And again the reference is I primarily get the data and the discussion points, and a lot of inputs are heavily borrowed from Edith Moravcik's book Introducing Language Typology, published by Cambridge University Press. I have always been referring to this book, and I want the participants to go back and check the book. The PDFs are available online, or you can buy that if you can, but make sure you get a copy and then do go back to the data that you would find in the book, and then you can relate to the generalizations, basically the typological generalizations that we have been talking about for all the units of linguistics that I have been discussing. Okay. So, these are the issues in this particular section. I will talk about the cross-linguistic generalizations about the sounds that language use. As I have mentioned, every sound, every L1, let us say the language with a small l, independent languages or individual languages, English or Hindi or Odia or Chinese or Japanese or Korean. So, all of these languages independently or individually, what are the cross-linguistic generalizations that we can draw as far as the sounds that natural languages use. Okay. So, that is one question which would be which we would try to discuss in this section. I will also talk about how the sounds take on variant forms depending on the phonological context. So, every sound will have a phonological context. On the basis of that context, how the forms are being shaped as far as the phonological items are concerned. After we focus on their form, we will focus on their order, how these phonological items or the phonological units are order in the world's languages. And finally, we will talk about a few phonological forms related to cross-linguistic generalization. So, when I am talking about cross-linguistic generalization, how I am going to assume or what are the basic phonological forms that help us to decide or to focus on any given generalization that we are going to discuss. Okay. So, the flow of the discussion is going to be the same as it happened in morphology. We will start with the choice of phonological units, then we will move to the forms of phonological units, and finally we will go to the order of phonological units. So, that is how we have been proceeding so far: choice, form, and then order. And finally, we will talk about what are the basic things related to cross-linguistic generalizations are concerned. As I did for the previous unit or for the previous section, I will discuss the typological generalizations that languages might have or the languages would have. On the basis of this, we will find out how many generalizations are there and whether these how these generalizations have been formed. And my suggestion for you, as I always say, please find out if you are if the languages that you speak, they fall in the same category. In the morphology chapter also, we were talking about the well-formedness of a linguistic object, and what does it depend on? It depends on the choice and the arrangement of its parts. Something similar is also happening here in case of phonology, and we will primarily find out how these forms are considered, how these forms are ordered, so that we can have a typological approach. Okay. Just to begin with the discussion, languages, they greatly differ, both in which the sounds are allowed to co-occur with each other, and also in what sounds are individually allowed to begin with. So, whether a particular sound can begin with a retroflex, begin with a or we can say whether it can begin with a palatal fricative like sh or not, whether it can occur with a nasal sound like or n or So, these kind of sounds. So, which particular sound is allowed to occur at the word initial position, or you can talk about what are the different sounds which can co-occur, what should be the order. So, these are a couple of basic things we need to figure out, or we need to find out when we discuss phonological typology. To begin with, we have two kinds of cross-linguistic differences. So, before I move to the generalizations, let me talk about the cross-linguistic differences. The first two major types. And when we discuss the cross-linguistic differences, the first thing is the availability of constituents and their choice in a given context. So, one, availability of constituents, and their proper choice, One cross-linguistic generalization is going to be drawn from here. And the second cross-linguistic generalization would be, we will talk about what are the examples in a while, but the second type of constraint, or the cross-linguistic generalization that we will have, is a type of constituent So, this one is which constituents are available, which constituents are not available. So, these are the two things: non-availability of constituents in the world's languages. So, these are the two major cross-linguistic differences that we are going to or we find in the typology literature of linguistics, typology. Okay. So, now let us see how these generalizations are accounted for. As I mentioned, the first one is which constituents are available and which constituents are not available. When we think about the availability of constituents, and these constituents are not syntactic ones, rather the phonological constituents. So, cross-linguistically, let us say the sound sh is very unlikely to appear, is very likely to appear at the sentence initial position. So, generally what happens in the language inventories, or when I say inventories, basically the storehouse or the repository. Let us say in case of sound system. So, cross-linguistically, the use of sound sh in word initial consonant cluster is analogous to the example of phonology. So, languages make different choices as far as the use of the segment sh is concerned. There are certain languages which have the sh sound at the beginning of the word, or we can call it word initial consonant cluster. So, the languages can be divided in two categories. Category A, that allows sh, which is affricative in the word initial consonant cluster, and there are certain languages which do not allow the use of sh in the word initial consonant cluster. In most of the cases, you see sh as a sound is not very frequently used, but that does not mean that it is not it could be rare, but it is not something which is impossible. For example, a South Asian language like Bangla would have certain words which would start with sh. Okay. Then the other kind of constraint that we have here is what are the possible combinations, or what are the possible sounds which may not be available in any language. So, the first one we saw, sh can be possible or is very likely possible as the word initial consonant cluster, as a part of the word initial consonant cluster. But there would be certain instances, there would be certain conditions which are not going to ever be possible in case of categories in case of the categories on the basis of the consonant clusters. Let us say, I will give you an example, let us say high rounded vowel, right, front high rounded vowel, which are not sort of much commonly found in the word initial position or the word initial, the word initial position. But in case of a language like, let us say, Turkish, you might find something like this. Okay. So, there would be certain constraint where which would not be allowed by many of the languages. But these kind of a pattern may not be universal, considering the availability and non-availability of sounds that depends on the available phonemes in the language inventory. It is not very easy to claim that availability of sh or availability of p or the availability of high round vowel. These are like the question comes, what is the language sample that you have in hand? Depending on the language sample, you might draw this generalization, but in case of if you talk about the absolute universality or the absolute universal feature, it might not be possible. For example, let us say Hindi, considering I do give examples from South Asian languages, Hindi, one of the most widely studied SAL or one of the most widely studied South Asian language, there are two different kinds of plosives, right, and these two plosives, they are actually considered as allophones. Okay. So, considering they are considered as allophones, not really possible for us to claim that this can like the word initiality or the word the word initiality, it could have similar meaning, not really. For example, okay, before I make it a little more complex, let me just give you the example. In Hindi, you will have something like pal and pal. So, pa and pa, apparently these are allophones, not in Hindi, but in a language like English. But in case of Hindi, they do not work like allophones, they do not have the same meaning. I am writing the words here. So, when I write when we write this means let us say this means time, kuch pal, like some time, or the other one I am writing the plosive. So, that would be fruit. These are the Hindi examples. So, pa and pa might be allophones in a language like English, but it is not going to be considered as an allophone in Hindi, because in English it could be allophones, but in Hindi it will not be, because they are not in they cannot be used as a substitute to each other. Okay? They would be, they are not like the complementary distribution or something. Rather, when you have the plosive pa, which is on aspirated, it has a different meaning, and the plosive pa with an aspirated sound, it will have a different meaning. When it is pal, it is going to be time, it is going to be considered as time, and when it is phal, it is going to be considered like the meaning is fruit. So, so that is the reason why it is not possible for us, or it is not that easy to find out a pattern which is absolutely universal, which would be considered as absolute universals in most of the world's languages. However, in spite of all the restrictions that we have at the sound level, the typologists, they still are trying to find out at least some generalizations to identify like some generalizations which can be considered in phonological typology literature. Okay, in spite of the constraints in spite of the restrictions that we have and the sample size that has been considered, in most of the cases it is like that. Okay. Now, we will start these generalizations with these generalizations one by one. The first generalization in phonological typology is that. So, we will talk about the first generalization to begin with. This generalization, let us read it first and then we will see how we are going to consider the data. In all languages, all words must include at least one vocalic segment. So, when I say vocalic segment, you may call it also a syllabic segment, primarily the presence of a vowel sound in the sentence. So, there is no word, no word in any of the world's languages which will not have a syllabic or a vowel sound in its syllable. So, here we have a couple of languages, the data from a couple of languages. For example, a language like Chumash, you will have words with alveolar sibilants. So, you see if you look at the phonetic representation, there is a O kind of a sound which is a syllabic one or the vocalic one. The words which have the palatal sibilant, this one is alveolar sibilant, and the one B, the example is the palatal sibilant. In the palatal sibilant also you will also have the O kind of a sound. Same is the case with the other language. One of the most widely studied language that we have is English, and this says I saw Suji sitting in a shoe shine shop, where in the second example where she sits she signs, and where she signs she sits. So, these are like a lot of tongue twisters. In this case, in an example like this, you see that there are in English, basically when you analyze the English data, the sound, this one, look at this. So, this stands for alveolar sibilant and this stands for palatal sibilant. Okay. Right. So, in this case sh and sh, these are also palatal, but when you have the ch sound, it is palatal, but a plosive rather than a sibilant. So, in this case also the Hungarian example, you see that no matter how many words you have here, in each unit or in each segment or in each syllable, you would surely have a vocalic sound, and this vocalic sound will have either an alveolar sibilant or a palatal sibilant. So, in English the alveolar sibilant is sa and then the palatal sibilant is sh. So, the English and Norwegian data is going to tell you that. In case of Turkish, what happens? Turkish is interesting because it has allomorphs that differ in whether the vowel is at the front or back. So, if the vowel is at the front, that is a different kind of allomorph, and at the back, that is a different kind of allomorph, and it depends on the stem of the vowel, right. So, we are not going into the morphological details here, we will rather focus on the phonological generalization, which says that all words must include at least one vocalic segment. Something similar is also happening here. The Turkish counterpart for children, look at the data number 3A. There would be in each unit there would be a sibilant, or there would be a vocalic segment, or there is a vowel. So, cook and then lar, and then kopekler, so O sound, the E sound, that is for dogs, village, photo, straight and restaurant, all of them, if you look at the data carefully, you would surely find the vocalic segments in each of the data. Similar is the case with Hungarian. Hungarian data is given here, kalapon, caret n or fuv on. So, in these cases also for each syllable you have a syllabic sound or a syllabic or a vocalic segment. So, that is about the first generalization of world's languages.